Hi, Tony Sweet here, and we're going to show you the use of how software can um, completely transform an image to an entirely different medium, whatever. But what's interesting here is that the image that I've chosen to use, and I'll explain why in a few minutes, was shot several years ago. You can basically go back through your library from whenever you started shooting and rework your favorite shots or even shots that aren't that good. Um, like this is okay, but you'll see where this gets transformed into a fine art painting, basically a serious one. Um, the power or the efficacy of these modern plugins is pretty astonishing to me, and I'm going to get started showing you what I mean. So, looking at this shot here, we're looking right up in here, and that's a bit dark. I like the sky, but this is a bit dark to me. So, what I like to do is go into on this image, go to Topaz Adjust, and a couple of things I learned from Barkley, my good friend John Barkley, is to do a preset, which I've done here. Thank you, John. Which is kind of where I start. A little bit of, make it look. Always hit reset all first. Always hit reset all first so you start fresh. And then we'll hit the, am I starting, like a little contrasty, gives it a little bit of a jumping off point, And also what, the secret to this software, the secret to it is how you work these two sliders. Regions, look at the foreground. It sort of has the effect of light smoothing. In Photomatix, it can look really bad. This isn't horribly terrible, but it's not great. So we'll pull the exposure back a bit and maybe pull the regions back. It's just a matter of fine-tuning this stuff until you get sort of what you like. And I want the smooth clouds, but the foreground open up a little bit. So again, just play around until you get what you want. Again, looks like this is kind of like light smoothing almost in if you do HDR. And all that I want is to bring the houses in the foreground up just a little bit. There you go. And there's View Original. That's before. So we're off to a good start. Now I'm looking at this. We're going to okay this out. Now I'm looking at this as a substrate or a primer, a first coat, if you will, as far as layers go. Okay, that's not bad. Now we're going to go in and we're going to go to the next move, which is to duplicate the layer. And here we're going to go to the overarching theme, which is like watercolor. We make this a watercolor painting. Now here we are in SnapArt, and they have some default settings, like your favorites. Just click through these. I like some better than others. And then we'll go down to here and see what that does. Come on, there you go. And these defaults are okay. This isn't bad actually. But the one that I like, that I want to really max out, is Small Brush Light Wash. That's in the abstract low realism. So it's going to look a little bit off the wall. But don't forget, we're going to blend this with what we just did. Okay. Now this has enough recognizability and makes the clouds kind of have that three-dimensional, like brush painterly type of look. That we're going to okay this out, and that'll come into your background layer here. And then all that I'm going to do is adjust the opacity to mix these two to get mostly the effect, but a little realism. And notice how long these things take to write. These are very advanced algorithms. There's a lot of number crunching going on. But once it latches onto it, it kind of goes pretty quickly. But again, this is an example of just ordinary picture that we will transform into a entirely different look. And we're getting there. Let's do it while we're young. There we go. All right, so there's 100% of what we just did. But what if I dial that back to about a nice jumping off point, say 50 or thereabouts? Okay, it's not quite enough. It's okay. turn it off, turn it on, that's how you look. Nah, we need a lot more than that. Let's go to about 80, see what that does. There we go. Now that's the look that I had in mind. That's before, that's after. We still need a little more work, but I'm going to go with this one. So we'll flatten this out. I mean, I like just flattening out things when I'm done. For me, it gets confusing having all these layers stacked up, not knowing what filter affects what layer, and you know. So I just simplify things, just flatten when I get what I like, and I'm done. Now, this is a little bit flat still, so we're going to create another layer. Always work on separate layers, and we'll go into filter, and we'll say exposure 2, which is an alien skin. It's the best film emulation software out there, and I'm going to set it to Velvia 50, which I know from shooting that for about a decade what it should look like. And that's kind of what it looks like, you know. There's before and there's after. It kind of punches up contrast, so your shadows get blacker, get darker, but it also punches up the good stuff too. So it gives you, it kind of goes both ways. Increased contrast gives you more shadows and more highlights. It gives you more blocked up shadows and blown out highlights, basically. So you've got to control that. This appears to be okay. Okay. You can also adjust the intensity here, but I would do it full 100% here and adjust your opacity in layers. You have a lot more flexibility there. So we're going to okay this out and get the Viveza effect. I'm sorry, it's confusing. Velvia effect. We're going to Viveza next. But here's our Velvia 50 look. There you go. A lot more color punch. You know, it's got a lot more edge to it, but it does block up the shadows. So I'm going to just flatten this out because I'm done. I like it. It's no problem. And now we'll pick Viveza because I want to target certain areas to deal with. Okay, Nik Software and Viveza right here. Now you see where some of the areas are blocked up. Pick a control point and we're going to move right down to here. See how black that is now? That did have color in the past. So we're going to pick an area to affect. And then we'll just make that a bit brighter. There you go. Look at that. Look at that detail come out. Just like that. Holding down the space bar, clicking on the image, you see your before and your after. You see little touches like that are what's critical. And I'm looking up here. It's kind of it's kind of dead up in here. So again, we'll just pick a control point and we'll drop it in here first to affect the red house, and we'll bring that up a little bit, a little brighter on both. There you go. And then we can hold down Option and duplicate that point and bring it to the greenhouse over here, and we'll expand it just a little bit. Pick up the shadow. Or the reflection, I mean. There you go. Now, spacebar, click on the image, before, look at that, and after. See, a little bit of life in there when it's brighter. And we're going to okay this out. And we'll show you the history in a second, so you see what we've done with Topaz Adjust, Snap Art, Watercolor, Filter, Exposure 2 for you saw what that did with Velvia 50, and using Viveza to target. So I'm using like 3 different software manufacturers packages here. And there's the original, and there's what we did. Not too bad on an image that isn't quite good to start with. So this is the power of the plugins that we have to deal with right now, to work with, and how we can take an older image and completely rework it to get something that's not too shabby. See you online.